Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of ZB's Horsepower Talk. As always, I'm ZB, Zack Brown, and joining with me, as always, former 410 Sprint Car crew chief and mechanic, Jeff Brown. Dad, we are wrapping up the first official week, I guess you can consider it, of the Clash in NASCAR, and we are about to kick off World of Outlaws this week at Volusia. Also, we have our top 5 list for the most iconic Daytona 500s in our opinion. Another trivia question for you to end the day, and a look ahead at the top 5 for next week. So let's get into this today.
All right.
So
yeah, I didn't get to see the Clash. I was on a cruise, so I missed
well,
the whole thing.
you did not miss much. It was a another year and just another boring race. Like we've already predicted, the track is too small for these big cars. What was impressive, though, is Ryan Blaney had to use a provisional to start that race. Went from dead last and ended up on the podium in 3rd place. So
wow,
that car was rolling. If he had a little bit more time, he had a chance. But guess what? I am 1 for 1 this year. So I got my pick right already. It's already off to a better start than last year. And maybe the luck has shifted to your side for the bad part because Christopher Bell didn't even make the race. So, yeah, there's that, which kind of sucks. I mean, you've got all these premier drivers that ended up missing, including Christopher Bell, and you don't even get to race in this race because it's limited to 23 cars in the field. If you have it to Daytona, you have more of a chance to make it. And they had to move it to Saturday. I get it. I do like the call that NASCAR did to move it to Saturday.
That's actually surprising they did that.
Yeah, and maybe because there's probably some sort of contractual agreement that it has to be out of. They have to start demolishing the track starting Monday. That's probably what happened. They let the crowd in for free. Still couldn't even get the place 50% sold out. I think NASCAR is looking at this as we need to look elsewhere for the Clash. And we've talked about it where it needs to go. I think what the rumors are, hopefully they're not true, where they're looking at next. They're looking at Mexico or Guadalajara. I don't know why. I don't know why NASCAR can't just go back to their route tracks and give some of these smaller tracks in these smaller towns a chance to profit.
Yeah, right. I mean, it'd be a big draw for a small track that has lost a NASCAR race, or wants to get back into it, or that holds a weekly series that it can get. I mean, you're gonna have to have some place that probably can hold 10,000 people at least just to have a crowd. But I'd rather have 10,000 race fans there, paying a little bit of money for a ticket than 50,000 freebies in there just because somebody gave them a ticket to go see and they don't even want to be there.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one that had the opinion of that the Clash sucked. There was a poll sent out in one of the groups that I follow, and it's got about 12,000 people. I don't know how many people voted on the thing, but it was voted 24% of the people said the Clash was a good race, something around there, 20 to 30%, something like that. I think it was around 24, and this the lowest I've ever seen in that poll. Usually if there's a bad race, it's about 50 to 60% people say it's a good race, and usually Daytona 500 ends up being in the 90s, usually one of the highest that they have. So obviously I'm not the only one that thinks it was a complete just disaster and just unnecessary to race out there. I don't know what the TV ratings were. I will say the one highlight of the day, though, is that Kevin Harvick, I think, is going to be phenomenal in the booth this year. I think he and Clint feed off each other very well. I think that's going to be one positive for Fox this year.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing. You got Clint, who's kind of wacky, and you got Kevin, who's very straightforward. So they'll actually sort of cancel each other out, and it probably will be a good broadcast.
Yeah, and I think
Kevin's very knowledgeable.
Yeah, and I think it'll be similar to what we heard when Jeff Gordon was in there with Clint too. I think I think it's good to have 2 drivers like that, and it ends up making Mike Joy a better broadcaster and all too, because he bounces out with his regular, not play-by-play, but that's what essentially he does, is the main broadcast part, and he's done it forever. So, that's one highlight. I think it's going to only improve with Kevin Harvick in the booth throughout the year as he gets more and more comfortable. It just takes them a little bit of time.
Sure, that's all new.
Yeah, NASCAR's off this week, so obviously, big game is the Super Bowl this week. So everybody kicks back, watches that, and sees all the ratings that's going to have. And no sport is ever going to touch the ratings of the Super Bowl, especially with Taylor Swift going to be there, and they cut the camera every 5 seconds to her. And you're going to have all these Swifties and stuff. Maybe one of these NASCAR drivers needs to date, I don't know, like Miley Cyrus or something. I don't know how to get more viewerships for that. But, yeah, so not the best way to start the year, but at least we had some engines running, and
Right.
a little bit. I mean, it was something. It was something to watch, and it was actually kind of cool on a Saturday night. I think it's perfect to have on a Saturday night.
Yeah, Sunday night people got to get up to work the next day, especially when you're having just an exhibition race. It doesn't matter. Nobody even really cares about.
And it crashes all the time. So many damn cautions, especially that second half. I was like, this is unbelievable. I was just trying to. I was at work too, so I was trying to catch it on the radio, and then they're like, oh, it's a caution. I'm like, well, okay, there's another 20 minutes, and they didn't count caution laps. So, and it just took the normal NASCAR amount of time to clean up a caution, so that took forever. Yeah, just look elsewhere, NASCAR. Look at our list that we had. If anybody is paying attention from the NASCAR corporate world, pay attention to that, what people actually want, because I think there's actually legitimate suggestions that we had. And
sure.
Screw it. I've seen some other people say it too, and it was on my list. Just go to damn Eldora and just get a little bit dirty to start off the year. Why not? Screw it. Anyways, to finish off our NASCAR for this week, obviously, real quick, we want to announce that, yes, we will do our normal show next week, but I'm flying down there to visit you guys, and we're going to do a live broadcast for the Daytona 500. We usually try to do something special on these big races anyways. We'll be poolside, probably won't be swimming because Florida wants to be cold when I'm going down. Why wouldn't it? But we'll be live streaming it, so if anybody wants to tune into that, it'll be around 10 to 12-ish in the morning. So have early morning beers, Daytona 500 beers. That's how it's supposed to go. It's literally a requirement, in case anybody was wondering. So yeah, tune into that. It'll be a live stream on YouTube exclusively, so check that out. That last week we ended saying, hey, we need to give our list of the top 5 most iconic Daytona 500s. So let's get into that. You were first up this week, so go in with your top 5 most iconic Daytona 500s, number 5 to number 1.
All right, get my list here. Number 5, 1993, the Dale and Dale Show, with Ned Jarrett in the booth cheering on Dale Jarrett for the win over Dale Earnhardt. Yeah, being a Dale Earnhardt fan, that kind of sucked, but it was actually really cool seeing, Ned Jarrett and how professional he was. It's great to be happy for your kid, and you can get caught in the moment, but it was very excited, and just kind of and the whole broadcast just kind of stopped and just let him talk and go through. That was really a cool thing to see. Number 4, February 22nd, 1959. I wasn't around for this one, but it was 2 feet. Lee Petty defeats Johnny Beauchamp. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe it was the first ever photo finish for NASCAR where they had to wait till the picture got developed to see who actually won the race. So that one definitely, I would think, makes it iconic.
Oh, yeah.
Number 3 was 1979, the first live televised Daytona 500. Came down last lap. With Yarborough and I believe it was Bobby Allison battling for the lead. They banged and got together and crashed. They got out, started fighting. Donnie Allison comes in, he starts fighting. And here comes Richard Petty, running third, half a lap behind, and wins his 6th Daytona 500. So number 2, 1998. Dale Earnhardt finally wins the Daytona 500. I remember that race. We were watching it, and Jeff Gordon was real fast, and it came down. There was a pit stop with not that many laps to go, and they all came in pit. I thought, whoever comes out first in this thing is probably going to win this race. And when he beat the 24 out of pit road, I got all excited, and even your mom, she was big Jeff Gordon fan. She was even happy with that one. And number one, unfortunately, it's probably the saddest day in motorsports. 2001, Dale's death. Michael Waltrip wins his first race ever, and Dale dies on the last corner, running third behind his two cars.
Yeah.
That was a tough day.
Yeah. And again, iconic for anybody wondering.
Yeah,
And
iconic doesn't necessarily mean happy.
Yeah, yeah, and we wanted to clarify that, and I think we both kind of alluded to it last week. We're saying, yeah, iconic doesn't necessarily mean the best ones. It's just
just memorable.
And that will forever be remembered. It doesn't matter what era of NASCAR you grew up in. You could have been born after Dale's death, specifically about 8 months after Dale's death, roughly, and your middle name's named after him too, and you're still going to remember that. So shout out to Michael. All right, well, yeah, that top five, you'll see a couple similarities, and you'll see kind of a trend with mine are the ones I really remember, minus two. So number 5 is the fight, 1979 Daytona 500. First televised one. And Richard Petty comes out of nowhere, half a lap down, past those two after they're fighting. Yeah. They both will argue back and forth whether if they were fighting or not, because the other said, yeah, the other would be on the ground if we were truly fighting and stuff, and they've been knocked out and all that stuff. But yeah, so that's definitely one of the most iconic. And no matter who makes the list, that's got to make a top 5 list.
That put NASCAR on the map.
And I actually did a research paper on that, and it shows you how much of a damn redneck I am. And I was like, oh, let me do a NASCAR race as a research paper. And I think this was like in 5th or 6th grade or something. And I dove deep into it, went through all the sources I could find. I think that's when we just started using like the computers at school and everything. So that was pretty interesting to learn about all that. But yeah, that's number 5 of mine. Number 4. The 2004 Daytona 500, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s first Daytona 500, and that iconic paint scheme with Budweiser. I think it was their 25th anniversary or something in NASCAR. It was some specific, or it was an all-star game, something like that. It was their specific alternate paint scheme that they had. It was white and red, awesome looking car. I'll never forget that one, because obviously after Dale's death, we went right into being Dale Earnhardt Jr. fans, and I remember like that was yesterday. 2004 was a pretty good year, because the Eagles ended up going to the Super Bowl after that season as well, so it was a pretty good year for our sports teams. But yeah, number 4 is Dale Jr.'s first Daytona 500. Number 3, Dale's second Daytona 500, 10 years later. This one is iconic to me because, this is his first major win with Hendrick Motorsports, and I think it was the year before or 2 years before, he got his first ever. He won the shootout in Hendrick, and I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't even amplify that by like 1,000. Is how excited I was when Junior won that thing. I might have had a couple many beers in me, but that was an amazing iconic race for me. I remember that I was in college, had it on the projector screen. I was running around the damn apartment complex.
Yeah, wasn't that a rain delay and was over real late or something like that?
I think it was, and I think we went through a period of Daytona 500s where there were a bunch of rain delays. Some of them ended early, some of them ended late at night. It doesn't matter because the alcohol hit more and more. So yeah, so Dale Jr.'s second Daytona 500. That's my number 3 for my iconic. Number 2, our number 2 and number 1 are exactly the same. So number 2, obviously, Dale Earnhardt's first ever only Daytona 500 win. 20 years, and we talked about this, alluded to. We might do some conspiracy stuff later on in the season, because you get 20 years to happen to get Dale's win. But, it's not for me to say, because that was awesome. And he lines up, and everybody on pit road high-fives him, and because you try for 2 decades, and as well respected as he was in the entire garage, it was absolutely incredible. He led literally every single lap there is to lead in Daytona 500, except the last one, and he finally got it done in 1998. And of course, obviously 2001, Dale's death, and I definitely remember it, and I was only 9, no, I was 7, and I still remember. I remember it flashing on the ESPN TV downstairs in the basement at our house on Solar Drive. And I didn't really understand exactly what was going on because, I mean, what 7-year-old does, but I remember seeing the graphics, and I remember seeing like Dale Earnhardt has died or something like that. I don't even know if I actually watched the actual race when it happened. Now I obviously see all the highlights and all the replays they have of it, but yeah, so yeah, obviously I don't think you can really change the top two for anybody's most iconic Daytona 500s. There will never be anything that will be more iconic than obviously Dale's death and Dale's win. I don't think there will be.
Right.
That's the most popular driver back then. I don't care what the statistics say, but he was the most popular driver back then.
Yeah,
so
just because you didn't like him did not make him less popular.
Yeah.
You know. Gotta take the good and the bad, just, you know.
So, not to end on a somber note like that, because we're trying to have fun here. Everybody, let's have fun. The Daytona 500 right around the corner, guys. So, next week, this is the top 5, and I thought this would actually be a really interesting top 5, especially what you come up with. But, in our opinion, the top 5 best NASCAR announcers of all time.
Okay, that's cool.
There you go. You got it wrote down everything. I already actually wrote my list. So I'm curious to see what you think. And, yeah, I got some old-timers already in my list. I'm excited to share that next week. So, yeah, if you guys want to let us know in the comments your top 5 NASCAR announcers of all time. There's a lot of very iconic voices that you will hear in the booth.
There's some that are current now that are not going to be on the list. I can tell you that right now.
Probably not going to really have anybody current now. Maybe one, but yeah, I think that will be an interesting list. So, Dad, let's get into the dirt world. Volusia's this week. They are racing Wednesday through Saturday, so it's a big opening week for the World of Outlaws. And we'll give our pick at the end. We're only going to give the pick for the Saturday race because sometimes the Outlaws do a little bit weird.
Yeah, there's just too much.
Yeah, they do a little bit
racing.
weird. I'm not exactly sure what the track schedules are, and sometimes they race all 4 nights, and sometimes they're like, we're racing this night, and then we'll be off the next, whatever. So we'll do the main event night. But talk about Volusia a little bit. It's not too far from where you're at in Volusia County, Florida.
Yeah, it's just sort of south of Daytona National Speedway. It's a decent-sized half-mile dirt track. At one point it was paved. At one point it was dirt. Then went back to pavement. And now we're back to dirt. It's a nice facility. It's a good place to start off the 410 Sprint Cars season. It's kind of a shame they don't run there. They only run just the beginning of the year. They don't come back any other time during the season. I think it would be a big draw, but they actually kind of hit it. It was sort of better when we had the speed weeks going for a couple of weeks, and you had stuff going on at the NASCAR track, and then we had Volusia. I can remember when we were down racing with Wolfgang. It was like we got the car fixed. We drove over to Daytona, and you could just walk in and watch them practice. I mean, that was back when Waltrip was in the Budweiser car, and AJ Foyt was actually running a stock car there because Wolfgang was a big AJ Foyt fan. He's like, oh, my heart just stopped for a second when he saw AJ Foyt pull out on the track. So that was pretty cool, and everything was sort of all going on at the same time. You already had a ton of race fans. Volusia would pack the place. And then all the race fans that stayed drunk, they'd head down to New Smyrna and see those races. So there was a lot of racing going on. We actually... This is weird, and I don't know why I remember this. Olive Garden down here had a breakfast at one time. So we were in there, and we were like, that's Bill Elliott. It was like...
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that was pretty wild. Like I said, I swear it was Olive Garden. I could be wrong on that one, but it was some random place that doesn't normally have breakfast, and they had breakfast, and there was Bill Elliott, and I think it was probably Ernie Elliott was with him and everything. That's pretty wild. So, yeah, Volusia's a nice place. The Outlaws aren't not going to East Bay, which is down in Tampa. That's the High Limit Series.
Yeah.
Going to be running there. So I don't know if any of the Outlaw drivers will run both. I think you'll get the guys that aren't committed to either series probably run both.
Yeah, for sure. And is High Limit starting in March? Is it March when they start their season?
I'd have to double check on the.
Yeah, I know they're not starting this week. I know it's just Outlaws, and they're really getting kickstarted big time this week. And I think they actually they might have a week off too before their next race because of how big of an event this is. This is big, 4 days of racing to start off the year. So how would that be with these teams to get prepared for a 4-night? I know it's probably nothing for these Outlaws anymore, but a 4-night event as opposed to the normal, traditionally 2-night event that they have, that's got to be pretty. I would say it's pretty rough on these teams.
Yeah, well, like you said, the Outlaws they do this all year, so it's not even a big thing for them. Maybe some of the teams that are not outlawed, like some Pennsylvania teams might be coming down. I think Dietrich's coming down. You got 4 nights. There's a possibility of tearing up a lot of equipment at one shot. So you got to make sure you have your contingency plan. If something happens, how much do you race? How do you bring extra cars? How many motors do you bring? Things like that. Those outlaw guys are going to have 2-3 frames ready to go. Probably 2, 3, 4 motors in the trailer.
Yeah.
Right now everything's fresh. And once you're traveling that far, I would rather race 4 days in a row rather than just driving 10, 12 hours, run on one night, 2 nights, and drive 3 or 4 to the next place or going home. So it's actually good. You're actually kind of there for a little bit of time. You get a little more comfortable with the track and then everything around it.
Previewing this year, and actually I didn't prepare you for this question when we get to it, but looking at it, it's going to be a lot different this year. I think there's only 13, 14 drivers in the Outlaws. Brad Sweet, Casey Kane. Now I think at least Casey's racing in Volusia. I saw they were sending something out, and he's on his way down there. But not a full-time driver, not for points. Neither is Brad Sweet, not racing for the championship. This opens up a ton of opportunities for all these other drivers now, and it's anybody's championship, I think.
I think it comes down to 2. I think you got David Gravel and Carson Macedo.
Yeah,
I'd say they're probably they got to be the top 2 favorites to win the championship. And it seems over the years, Gravel is more consistent throughout the year. It's like Carson Macedo will run. It wouldn't be surprised to see him have the point lead for the first quarter to half of the year, and then it seems like he runs into trouble, and then Gravel just is constantly always
Well,
then
he's not going to be able to follow around Brad Sweet anymore, unfortunately. So he won't be able to see wherever one was, the other was the entire time.
Yeah, it sure seemed like it. And then you got Logan Schuchart and probably Donnie Schatz will be probably the next. I think that's the top 4.
I've got a dark horse this year, and this might blow some people's minds a little bit, but I've got a big dark horse. He was running so consistent at the end of the season, well, about the end of the summer, towards the end of the season last year.
Forgot about Hod too.
What's that?
Sheldon. I forgot about Sheldon too.
Yeah, well, that's not my dark horse this year. My dark horse this year is none other than Hot Sauce Giovanni Scelzi. He is my dark horse this year to get some wins and be in contention for the championship. If he stays consistent, especially throughout the entire summer and starts off the year fairly hot, I think he'll be in contention for the championship this year. So I'm not saying he's winning the championship. That's not my championship favorite or my championship pick this year, but I think he's a dark horse to make some noise in the Outlaws this year.
I think that would be a very, very popular champion to have in the Outlaws. I think a lot of people like him.
Yes.
Especially he started out so young and was so good, and now he's getting a little more mature, and he's probably actually racing better now than he has the last couple of years. Just you get a little more experience under your belt and know when to go and when not to.
The Outlaws have him in their promo commercial this year too, so I didn't see all of it. Cool. I know he was in the promo. I think they were kind of asking him like, "Hey, how'd you get your nickname and stuff?" I didn't watch all of it, but yeah, they're kind of pushing his face out there now, and now that you got the 5-time in a row champion Brad Sweet out of the picture. It's kind of opening the door for a lot of people. So for Volusia, let's give our picks for that race. And you're going to have to go do it on the spot because I didn't ask you who's your pick to win the championship this year, since it's the start of the year. And obviously we'll preview NASCAR stuff next week. But Volusia, then your championship favorite to win.
Volusia, I picked Carson Macedo. And this just sort of goes by what we were just talking about a second ago. He seems like he's really good beginning of the year. And championship, just like we talked about, I got Gravel.
All right, well, I've got David Gravel as well for Volusia. Not as well for Volusia, but he's also my championship. But I got David Gravel for Volusia to start off the year hot and make a statement win this Saturday. Now, I don't know who wins the other nights or how that's all getting shaken up, but I know Saturday's $20,000 to win. So David Gravel's my pick that day, and yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I definitely think this is David Gravel's year to finally get his World of Outlaw championship that's been eluding him for so long.
Yeah, yeah, he's been trying, and always comes up just short. I'm not a David Gravel fan by any means, but I think it would be well deserved. I think he probably deserves a championship. He's been at it for a long time.
For sure. I mean, he's finished second so many damn years now. I mean,
sooner or later you're bound to get one.
Well, it helps that the guy that keeps beating you is no longer in the picture.
This is true.
All right, so trivia question of the week. This is only one answer, and hopefully you should probably get this. And this is going for the Daytona 500. We're going back to that. In all of the years of the Daytona 500, there's only been one of the times it's happened. A father-son duo finishing first and second. Who were those?
Bobby and Davey Allison.
Yep. Do you know the year?
Wow. 88?
Holy shit. Yeah, that's good. Damn. Yeah, I can't stump him this week, guys. Yeah, he knew that one. So, yep. Which, I mean, makes sense. The only other option you could probably think of, maybe Lee and Richard Petty at the most. I don't even know who else you would put up there. It really wouldn't be any. Yeah, so I think that does it this week. And, yeah, remember, guys, top 5 NASCAR announcers for next week is our top 5 list. Enjoy Volusia. Make sure you guys follow on all social media platforms and share anywhere you get your podcast. And we've got a special guest episode lining up this week, and it is none other than the Postman, Steve Post from NASCAR MRN Radio. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Excited to have him, and yeah, we'll release that later this week. So be on the lookout for that. Again, share, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Yeah, that's pretty cool having him on. Most people recognize his voice, but probably do not recognize his face. So that's going to be a good guy to get in front of the camera for a little bit. So that's awesome that you're having him on.
Yep, that'll be fun. All right, till next week, Dad. We'll see you then.
All righty, bye.